This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Good morning, St. Joseph. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. Next, giving honor to the great pastor of this church, Reverend Dr. J. Augustine, to our leading lady, Michelle Augustine, in her absence, to Lottie Dottie and everybody. It's good to see you this morning, y'all, and I never get tired of acknowledging my grandmother, who is here on the fourth row. Always good to see her in the building. It's always good to see my grandma. Family, let us pray. God, we come to you today just to say thank you. I pray right now that you allow the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts to be acceptable in your sight. Speak now, Lord, for your servants are listening. Amen. There's a word from the Lord this morning, and it will be coming from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 26 through 28. And I'll be reading from the New Revised Standard Version. And it reads like this. Then God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. The word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be unto God. I'd like to speak from the message title this morning, It Is What It Is. It is what it is. It is what it is a phrase commonly used to describe how certain things will always stay the same. When a person says it is what it is, they have accepted that certain situations will never change because they have seen it happen too many times. America has taken back its toxic ex-boyfriend in Donald Trump. And people say it is what it is. We held Social Justice Sunday. We preached about the importance of voting, but still came up short on election day. But some folk claim that it is what it is. Being black in America has become synonymous with being disrespected, overlooked, and underappreciated, but it is what it is. We are still fighting racism in 2024, but some folks suggest that it is what it is. Environmental injustice is on the rise, and climate change is harming black people and black communities, but some folks say that it is what it is. Might I suggest the problematic nature of the phrase? Have we become so satisfied with stagnation and oppression that we no longer want to make a change? Have we been fighting for power for so long that we now feel powerless? It is what it is. But because it is what it is, we must do what we have to do. Because it is what it is, we must make a change. Our text today comes from the first chapter of Genesis, which stands as the first book and chapter of the entire Bible. In it, God has just created the heavens and the earth with all of its inhabitants. And God said that his creation was good. And in our focus verses for today, we read about God's vision for the creation of humanity. We read about God's creation of humankind in his image, and God blessing humankind, saying to them to be fruitful and multiply. And we further read about God's instructions to humanity for them to subdue the earth and have dominion and rule over all creation. Can you imagine receiving these instructions from God? God, with all of his divine power, has instructed humankind with all of our flaws, imperfections, and sinful desires to have dominion over both living and non-living creation. So what do you do when you receive the keys to the kingdom? College student, what do you do when your mom and dad no longer tell you what time you need to be home? Young adults, what do you do when you finally have to pay your own bills? What do you do when God has instructed you to care for the earth, yet you wrestle with even caring for yourself? My brothers and my sisters, we must understand that with great power comes great responsibility. And when those in power lack wisdom and morals, we see how having dominion can become destructive. We see being instructed to rule over something can result in recklessness. As we look back over our past and look to our present to prepare for the future, we see how God's instructions have been historically misinterpreted. People have used God's instructions to subdue the earth to justify the shackling and enslavement of creation. They have used the term subdue to justify the mistreatment of black people and the environment. They have used the term subdue to justify legislation that not only destroys hope for the present, but also destroys hope for the future. They have used the term subdue to justify the pollution in our environment in the name of economic profit, but the term subdue does not mean to oppress. The term subdue does not mean to exploit. The term subdue means for us to steward well all of God's creations. The term subdue means that we are to care for the earth and our environment. To have dominion does not mean to arrogantly and selfishly make decisions without caring about the lasting impacts on others and the world. Have we, as my grandmother would say, gotten too big for our britches? Where we begin to think so highly of ourselves that we think that we are God ourselves. Instead of being a part of God's creation, many of us feel like we are God the Creator. But I wonder if there is someone who knows that we are nothing without the power and presence of God working in and through us, and that in all we do, we are mere vessels working on God's behalf. The irony is that separate from God, our actions create patterns of behaviors that confine and constrain us to the point where we no longer see the destruction that we cause. Where we have become unapologetic destroyers of the environment without regard for repercussions. Yet creation is suffering and we still remain silent. We preach and shout often about the power of God in our churches, yet we rarely preach about our impact on the environment. I want someone to know that there can be no future without our environment. The truth is that our earth and environment is experiencing major pollution, impacting our present and our future. The truth is that pollution cemented in capitalism is directly destroying many of our black communities. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. According to the NAACP, race is the number one indicator for the placement of toxic facilities in this country. And the unfortunate truth is that toxic facilities are more likely to be found in black communities. And this fact did not come into existence yesterday. This disparity is deeply rooted in the long-standing effects of slavery and Jim Crow segregation. The Environmental Protection Agency acknowledges that due to historical conditions such as segregation and redlining, Black Americans are more likely to be exposed to polluted and contaminated environments. Black children are more likely to have asthma than children of any other race in America, as they are more likely to live in neighborhoods located near plants and factories that emit harmful pollution into the air. So what happens when we inhale oppression? What happens when we inhale environmental injustice? What happens when we inhale destruction? We exhale pain. We exhale problems. We exhale disease. Beloved, have we become so intoxicated by power that we cannot see the impacts of pollution? Have we become such capitalists that we have lost touch with creation? Wow. I am reminded of the abolitionist and social activist Harriet Tubman, who used creation to lead and guide many enslaved Africans to freedom through the Underground Railroad. She looked to the North Star as her guide, and she navigated the rivers to lead herself and other enslaved people to freedom. But what happens when the waters that once led our ancestors to freedom have now become the waters that are polluted and uninhabitable? What happens when the stars that provided the light of hope for the enslaved are no longer visible because of toxic fumes and pollutions in the air? Do we even care about creation anymore? Is there hope for creation? Or have we become blinded by the smog and the fog? Have we been blinded by capitalism? Have we been blinded by the desire for power? Have we become blinded by the desire to have more when God can do more with less? Have we become blinded by this narcissistic and egotistical culture that says that if you don't have money and power, then you don't have a purpose? Have we failed to realize that there are generations to come after us who are going to inhabit the earth that we live in today? Have we misconstrued the word dominion and translated it to mean destruction? Have we been blinded by this culture that says that creation does not matter as long as your bank account is good and as long as your household is in order? Then you don't have to worry about what's going on in the environment around you, as if climate change and the environmental pollution are unable to reach the corridors of luxurious living that we find ourselves in that we think can protect us. Wow. But I want to tell somebody that climate change and the environment are great equalizers that we must all address and respect. The climate does not care about how big your house is. The storm does not care about the money you have saved in your bank account. Pollution does not care how much your car costs or the number of degrees that you may have or the job that pays you. The hurricane does not care if you are a Republican or a Democrat. The tornado does not care if you are rich or if you are poor. So we must address and respect our environment for a better present and a better future. Y'all, we have got to start praying for the environment. We've got to start praying for the future. We've got to start praying for the earth. And I wonder if I have at least 10 people in here who may have a pretty good life now, but who want their kids to have a good life, whose kids might have a good life, but who want their grandkids to have a good life, whose grandkids might have a good life, but who want their great-grandkids to have a good life. I know we often shout about generational wealth, but is there anybody who can shout about generational health? who can say, I am going to fight and advocate for my community and this world to be a better, safer, and healthier place, who can say, I am not going to be satisfied with stagnation. I am no longer going to contribute to contamination because God is depending on me. Is there anybody who can say, I am no longer going to be satisfied with the phrase, it is what it is, because God is who he is? I know we get excited about what God can do for us, but I wonder if there's anybody who can get fired up about what we can do for God. We can work to clean a highway. We can recycle some goods. We can reduce our consumption. We can plant some seeds. We can fight for environmental justice. We can heal the land. We can combat climate change. I want to talk to somebody who is ready to combat the death of creation by living a life according to God's purpose, who can care for their family by caring for creation. Is there anybody who can say, I am a vessel of God? I am a vessel for the environment. I am a vessel for justice. I am a vessel of God's grace. I am a vessel of God's power. And because I am a vessel, I am going to stand up and speak out about issues that matter. See, to be created in God's image is to see God in all of creation. Can you see God in the trees? Can you see God in the seas? Can you see God in the grass? Can you find faith in a leaf? Can you see God in a rock? Can you see God in the storm? One of the difficulties I have with God calling humanity to subdue the earth is the unpredictability of the environment. I know someone today may be fired up about doing something to change the environment for the better. But how do we prepare for the impact of environmental disasters? One thing that we must recognize as humans is that even while the environment is dependent on us, we are also dependent on the environment. Our future is deeply connected to creation. Yet being connected to creation means we are connected to the Creator. I'm reminded of a story from a few weeks ago. I was driving my car in the midst of a storm. So I turned on my windshield wipers. And I noticed that my windshield wipers were moving and making noise, but they weren't clearing my windshield to grant me the vision needed to drive through the storm. They were wiping, but they weren't working. Back when I first got my car in 2018, my windshield wipers worked when I faced storms during a drive. Yet in 2024, they no longer worked. So I took my car to the same dealer that made the car. And when I got to the dealership, I told the dealer the problem that I was facing. I told him that my windshield wipers were no longer working. And the dealer told me that he had exactly what I needed. He told me that my wipers had gone through some years of struggle. He told me that I should have come to him a long time ago to face the storms along my journey. He told me that I'd been driving through the storms without clear vision for far too long, but that it was time for me to see again. The dealer gave me some new windshield wipers, and I've been seeing clearly through the storms ever since. I came to talk to somebody in need of some new windshield wipers. I came to talk to somebody who needs to have their faith renewed. I came to talk to somebody who is tired of going through the motions of church and who are waiting for some real change to happen in their life, to tell you that the best thing that you can do is go to the dealer that is God. God can deal you some hope. God can deal you some strength. God can deal you some faith. And when your windshield stop wiping, God is still working. When the rain starts pouring, we've got to keep on praising. When the storms start raging, we've got to keep on hoping, because even though the climate may change, God stays the same. And the same God that created us before the storm will keep us through the storm. But I know sometimes a windshield wiper isn't enough to combat the impacts of climate change. I would be remiss if I did not recognize that some folks here have faced some tragic storms where they have lost some valuable things. Someone might have lost their home. Someone might have lost their car. Someone might have lost their job. Someone may have lost their electrical power. But can I tell you, what you did not lose was the power of God within you. What you did not lose was God's love for you being made in his image. What you did not lose was yourself. What you did not lose was your faith. What you did not lose was your belief in a God who can silence the storms of life and give you what you need. And the very fact that you are here today shows that you can make it through some storms. I'm talking to some people who have been through some hurricanes. I'm talking to some people who have faced some storms. I'm talking to some people who at times have found it hard to breathe, but who are breathing today, who can say, because I am breathing today, I know that God is not done with me yet. Who can say, I may have lost a lot in the storm, but what I did not lose was my faith and belief in a God who can make a way out of no way. And I know I'm talking to a bunch of believers in God today, but I want you to know that God also believes in us. He would not have us here if he did not believe that we were capable of caring for creation. So I challenge us to not let God down. All right. As I close, I must talk about the Thanksgiving holiday rapidly approaching. I'm ready, like Shirley Caesar, for the beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, ham, lamb, hog, mog, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it. But when I arrive at the house for Thanksgiving, I know my place. You will not find Brother Hill in the kitchen. I will arrive with a smile and a prayer. But while my primary role for Thanksgiving is not in the kitchen, I am always assigned as a runner. What the runner role includes is me making a run to the store for the things that my mother and father may need as they cook in the kitchen. I might not be cooking in the kitchen, but I can run to the store and get some ice. I might not be responsible for the Thanksgiving turkey, but I can grab some seasoning. Someone today might ask the question, what can I do to help fight the large problems of climate change and pollution? But I want you to know that every effort, no matter how small, makes a difference for the environment. And we might not end pollution tomorrow, but we can fight for environmental justice today. We might still have toxins and fumes in our environment today, but we can start making changes for tomorrow. Because when the trees begin to talk and the winds begin to blow, we can know that the Spirit of God is upon us. When the mountains begin to move and the stars begin to shine, we will know that God is in all of creation. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won, but we shall fight on to the finish. The same way we had hope with God yesterday is the same way we have hope in God today. And God has challenged us with all of our hope to care for creation. If you are up for the challenge, won't you stand like you were made in the image of God and declare that I am ready for the challenge? If you are committed to working to make the environment and world a better place for our young black children, won't
Won't you stand and declare that I am up for the challenge? If you know that God can make a way out of no way, won't you stand and declare that I am ready for the challenge? If you know that no weapon formed against you shall be able to prosper, won't you stand and declare that I am up for the challenge? We are up for the challenge. Now let's work to make the environment and world a better place. God bless you.